Hey everybody. So recently when I was working on the videos that I'm posting about YouTube TV, I've come to realize I never really did do sort of a formal video talking about my current HTPC setup, because it's a little complicated but not too bad. So what we have here is the TV box Slim over there. It's got the components of a Acer laptop shoved into it. It's a former DirecTV set-top box, which I have a laptop motherboard, and again I have an Acer laptop with a pretty low-end Celeron, I think a system on chip. It's got, I want to say, 4 gigs of RAM, 256 gigabyte SSD, and it runs Windows 10 Pro. And I have, of course, YouTube on TV running here, and the way this works is it's done through Google Chrome in kiosk mode, and I have a user agent set up to trick YouTube's servers into thinking I'm running a Roku, because back in 2019, late 2019, Google decided to say, hey, you can only access YouTube on your TV using a supported device. So I made my HTPC a supported device, and I'll go ahead and post a card talking about how I did that. So here we have, of course, the YouTube on TV app. The only downside is back around 2020, Google pulled support for casting to the TV. They turned it into this sort of automated thing to where it automatically works on your smart TV, but I don't know how that works. Used to be you could do it manually with a pairing code, where I could just cast stuff to the TV from the computer. It was great, but they took that away. But we have, of course, still the YouTube lean back interface to where I can go and, for example, go through my subscription list and watch videos. For example, CubeComp MTDX. And I just started this machine up a little while ago. Here we are. Had a power blank over tonight. So you can see, for example, you can watch YouTube videos on this, and I posted a video kind of recently advising creators to not say in the description below, because of course on the YouTube leanback TV interface, the description and comments are not below the video. So anyways, that aside, we have the YouTube leanback interface on here, and I'm using a Windows Media Center remote control to control this. So the downside with the YouTube leanback interface is, for example, while my pause and play buttons work, and I can actually skip to the next video by pressing the skip buttons on the remote control. So I can go to the next video, or I can go back to the previous video. That works. And again, pause and play works. Stop also works. It takes you back. The only issue is the back button. I know the light is not the greatest, but the back button on the remote control does not work, because Google Chrome, like many web browsers, they have hard-coded into their interface the back button to be, of course, controlled by the backspace button on the keyboard. And the back button on this remote is mapped to the backspace key on the keyboard. Now, if I was only using this TV box to watch YouTube, I could go into a remote mapper and change these buttons around. Now, I'll talk about remote mapping here in just a moment. But the thing is, I also have Windows Media Center on here. And Windows Media Center, for example, I have to press this little blue button to invoke the taskbar, and I can press the Windows Media Center button to start Windows Media Center. So you can see we have Windows Media Center on here, and I installed that using the process shown in the card in the upper right corner. That video talks about how to do it on Windows 11, but also applies to Windows 10. So we have Windows 8.1 Media Center on Windows 10. For example, I have a movie collection that I can go watch from here, and this is actually on the Mid-Tower Deluxe. So I have all this stuff set up where it's network shared and all that good stuff. The only thing, you see, now I'm so used to pressing this clear button on the remote control, which presses the escape key. I'm so used to pressing that to go back, but in Media Center you press the back button or backspace to go back. And that's kind of the issue I'm having, is I cannot, it's either or. I cannot, unfortunately, I've looked and looked and looked, and apparently there's no way to set up Chrome to remap key presses. It's kind of unfortunate, because it'd be nice to be able to press the back button on the remote control to go back in YouTube on TV. So Windows Media Center, as you can see, here we are. Now, another thing, the 4 buttons on the bottom of this remote control, which are zoom, angle, audio, and subtitle. I believe these are all for the DVD player. I don't care about these keys, so I remapped them to do different things. So the blue button on the bottom of this remote control presses, I think, Alt-Tab or Win-Tab. I'll show you actually how this is done in a later part of the video, and we'll go over the actual key presses that this does. So actually with Media Center, I gotta exit it so I can press the red button, and that gets us out of Media Center. So the blue button presses Alt-Tab or Win-Tab, and that brings up the taskbar as well as a task switcher. This comes in handy. Now, of course, pressing the red key, depending on which YouTube interface I'm using. For some reason, if I'm using the YouTube on Roku, the red button does not close it out. The red button is literally pressing Alt F4, which will close out just about everything except for YouTube lean back when it's using the Roku user agent. So in that case, if YouTube on TV is acting up, the alternative option would be to either press the green button, which is Control-Delete, and that brings us up our options to sign out. And generally I would sign out in that case. I'm not going to sign out right now, but it gives you the option to sign out and stuff like that. Also, the yellow button on the bottom, I have mapped to press the start button, which brings up the start menu, which is the open shell start menu, which is like Windows 7, and I have a few things over here. I can just use the up and down arrows on the remote control to navigate through this. I don't really care about the stuff on the right, although I can give her to it. I don't care about that. I'm just concerned about these items on the left here. And I can go down to the bottom and access the options to restart the computer, log off, whatever. So that being said, if we look over here, sorry if I was getting a little bit out of view for a second, I can access YouTube TV from this. And I'm getting ready to cancel my YouTube TV trial because don't need it anymore. I was using it to watch the NASCAR All-Star race last weekend, and I got to cancel it by the 29th, which is technically tomorrow, but we'll go to YouTube TV one more time. Now, of course, I cannot play any TV on here because of copyright, but you can see, of course, I don't have anything saved. But this is the YouTube TV interface. And as I discussed in my previous video about YouTube TV, the guide buttons and live TV buttons on the Media Center remote obviously do not function with this. They actually will bring up Media Center if I press them. So it's literally, you're restricted to the keys that you normally would have unless say a Roku remote, like the up and down side arrows, all that good stuff. You can use those to get around. And of course, to get out, I have to press this clear button at the bottom, which is pressing the escape button on a keyboard. So I press clear, 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 clear again, and then it gives us the option to either go back to YouTube or stay on YouTube TV. So let's go back to YouTube, and we can switch back to the YouTube lean back interface. So now that we've sort of gone over my setup here, which by the way is about the same for the other TV Box Slim in the computer room as well as the TV Box Cube in my bedroom, let's talk a bit about how I do maintenance on this thing. So first and foremost, I have to have a way to remote access this thing. And of course, yes, I could plug up a keyboard and a mouse to the thing and work on it that way, but it's nicer to be able to just sit at the computer and control it that way if I need to do something. So I have it set up to where I can just go through into TeamViewer and remote access the thing. And let's take a moment and go ahead and get into this thing. Okay, so I'm going to go remote into this with TeamViewer. So I have the computer listed here in my computers. Just go ahead and access it. Okay, so you can see I am controlling this. So now I can actually go in here and kill off the YouTube lean back interface. And we have the desktop, which has just a few random things on it. Nothing too spectacular. But let's go ahead and talk about how I set up the Media Center remote. So the software is free to download. It's called Advanced MCE Remote Mapper.exe. It's just a standalone executable file. And when you launch it, it shows you your initial default setups. Now in this case, I have actually configured a few things. So first and foremost, those buttons I mentioned about earlier. The DVD angle button is set up for Control Delete. The DVD audio button is Control Escape. So that's how I get the start button to pull up. So I couldn't have it set up to press the Windows key, so the alternative was Control and Escape. And the subtitles button, which is a blue button, I have set up for Windows and Tab key. That brings up the taskbar as well as open windows, all that good stuff. And another thing is the Windows Media Center start button, the little green button. For some reason, does not work in Windows 10 or Windows 11 with Media Center installed manually. So what I had to do was I had to use I think a piece of software called, oh, here's what I did. So the Windows Media Center shortcut. What I did here was I went into the properties and there's an option to create a shortcut key. So I created it as Control-Alt-B. And what that does is when you press Control-B on the keyboard, that brings up Windows Media Center. So I just went in here to Advanced MCE Remote Mapper and I set that custom shortcut Control-Alt-B, and that brings up Windows Media Center. So other than that, I think that's about it for the mapping on the buttons here. So the way it works is you go in and you change these to whatever you'd like, and you can hit apply to registry or hit save the file, you hit save the file to do a backup applied registry to actually apply these mapping updates to the registry, because it's actually within the Windows registry is how this works. So, as I mentioned earlier, the issue with the YouTube on TV lean-back interface, if it weren't for Windows Media Center, I could actually remap the button. For example, the back button. Let's see where it's at here. The back button, as you can see right here, backspace. I could change that to actually hit the escape key when I press it, but then going back in Windows Media Center does not work anymore. So it's kind of a bummer. So it would be nice if there's a way I could actually change the mapping in Google Chrome to where the backspace button could not be set up to go back, but to more or less hit escape. So anyways, that is a look at the setup I have here for the home theater PC. Again, post Windows 7 is not as easy to deal with because, well, Microsoft apparently seems to think that HTPCs are extinct, so they killed off Windows Media Center with Windows 10. So we got Windows Media Center back in limited form. It's not the fully functional Media Center that you would have in Windows 7. It's kind of a wash as to whether I could get cable TV to work with this, especially digital cable TV that requires a cable card. YouTube TV is an option, but it's overpriced in my opinion. When I can actually get 2 years of Spectrum TV with my internet service for cheaper than what I could get YouTube TV for. So it's YouTube TV. I feel is in a way kind of pointless. I thought they were supposed to be like a streaming service to replace your cable line, but it's pretty sad that now cable TV options are, at least for promotional periods of like 2 years, are cheaper than YouTube TV. But that being said, that is my home theater PC setup. And let me go ahead and get out of TeamViewer real quick. Okay, so for example, we'll go ahead and launch YouTube Leanback. That way I can begin my next video, which will be canceling YouTube TV. So anyways, hope y'all enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Hey everybody. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video from Cuckoo Channel. If this is your first time, please subscribe to the channel and be sure to tick the bell so we get notified of new video posts. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, leave a comment, and share this video as well as the channel with your friends and get the word out. Also, I have a second channel, that's CubeCompMTDX. Over there you'll find videos about thunderstorms and weather, cycling, and videos about me personally. Feel free to subscribe over there as well if you like. Again, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for your support.